Joining us live on the program, our cricket analyst in Robin Uthappa. Robin, let me talk about that last stretch, those last 6 overs, 240 for 4. So New Zealand go on to lose 6 wickets in those 6 overs and just about get 30 odd runs. Do you think the game has really turned on its head in what we've seen in the last 6 overs?
Sorry, it certainly has turned on its head in the sense that India have made a comeback and they've probably restricted them from scoring 300 to about 273 right now. But I personally thought 275 on this wicket was going to be a pass score. So they have managed a very good score on this wicket. Now it's only going to be, we'll only have to wait and watch if Dew is going to play a factor. If Dew is not going to play a factor, then India will have to contend with the seam bowling of what New Zealand have. But if they get off to a good start, I don't think there's anything stopping India.
Robin, let's try and look at the conditions, and we've got an idea of what sort of pitch this is. I'm just looking at the figures for the Indian fast bowlers. Shami has, of course, picked up 5 wickets, but if you look at the economy for both Siraj and Bumrah, it's well below 5. It's in the 4 range. Is that giving you an idea that playing fast bowlers here could be tough?
I certainly believe so. It actually puts into perspective the kind of wicket that it is, and it's going to be easier to score runs against the spinners than against the fast bowlers. And I think with the overhead conditions there, and as the night wears on, the air is going to get thinner and thinner. And with that, there's going to be some swing on offer for the fast bowlers. And we know the likes of Trent Boult and Matt Henry can swing the ball, and they have caused issues for India in the past. So these are things that India should be wary of and will be there at the back of their mind. Having said that, again, like I said earlier, they get off to a good start. There's nothing stopping India.
Let's talk about now specific players, and I'm going to start with the star of the show for India with a fifer. That is, of course, Mohammed Shami gets his first game, gets you a fifer. Going forward, when Hardik Pandya returns, what does the Indian team do? It's going to be tough to keep a guy who's picked up 5 wickets on the bench.
Well, it certainly will be. But having said that, you have to understand that the balance of the team is more important than who's going to play. And you have to also acknowledge the fact that Shami is about 35, 36. So he's in the back end of his career. So with his experience, there was no doubt that when he would play, he would perform. So I'm not surprised that he has performed. I feel like it's justified that you're going to use someone like Shami from time to time, and when he does play, he will notch up performances. So that you have someone as dependent as Shami here, and if Siraj continues to bowl like he's bowled today, then it becomes a little bit of a selection headache. But given the fact that if when Hardik comes back, what's gonna be the scenario? I think they will again depend on who they are playing against and who they want to rest and who they want to give an opportunity to. So if they're going to rest one of the fast bowlers, then Shami walks in. And I think that understanding is already there, the communication is already there. And the good thing is right now, with Shami's performance right now, India can actually afford to give Hardik a break for one more game in case that is required for Hardik. So it gives someone like the Indian team management the cushion to kind of work the permutations and combinations around now that this performance has come from Shami.
Robin, let's talk about the performance of Daryl Mitchell with that 130. What did you make of that? He had been in good form leading up to the World Cup, ensuring that he makes the most of the time that when you are in a good form, get the maximum amount of runs that you can. That's typical batter mentality that was on display today.
Absolutely, and Daryl Mitchell is someone who's such a low-profile player, flies under the radar, but always is so consistent for New Zealand and has been over the last couple of years in all formats of the game. And I wasn't surprised. And one of the things I even mentioned, I think, on my channel was that watch out for Daryl Mitchell. He will perform, and he did perform exactly like I said. I felt like he's someone that people don't necessarily pay attention to, but is a humble, very humble servant of New Zealand cricket, and one of those typical New Zealand guys who flies under the radar, but make sure he notches up great performances. Not the most stylish player, but the most effective, and at that number 5 position, is able to absorb pressure so well. And exactly what he did today as well. Just went out there, absorbed the pressure, and then made sure he got New Zealand to a great score. Top knock by him.
Robin, you spoke about it's, and you said that there would be no reason why you think India cannot chase this down, provided they have a good start. So let me focus on that. Whatever you've seen with the new ball, whatever you've seen the Indian fast bowlers able to do with the new ball, we think that the New Zealand bowlers might be able to replicate that. What is your gut feeling? Do you think this is a chaseable total?
It certainly is a chaseable total, but I definitely thought anything above 270 was going to be par. I thought they would get to 275. They've fallen slightly short of that, but I still believe that they have got the pass score. Anything above 275 would have been above par for me. And so that first 10 overs, 15 overs, I think similarly to how India bowled at the New Zealand batters, you will have to be circumspect as a batter. They will hit good areas. They look to swing the ball. They look to seam the ball exactly like what Bumrah, Shami, and Siraj did. And I think that's because that's where they will bowl. They will just bowl. They will just hit the right areas no matter how hard you go at them. So you will have to be disciplined at the top 15 overs. Once you get set in, you'll have to put in the hard work and use your skills. And I think your skills will be a display of the batters a lot more today than about stroke making skills. I think survival skills and then the cricket smarts is that's those skills will be on display today. And whoever execute those skills to the best of their ability will come up trumps.
Okay, in particular, I know Matt Henry has been outstanding for New Zealand because, the first 10 overs might just decide where does this game go. Trent Boult has been traditionally the threat to the Indian batters. If I'm not mistaken, I think you may have spent some time with him during your stint at KKR, may have faced him a lot in the nets as well. What do you think is the trick to be playing a Trent Boult, especially when the ball is doing a bit?
Well, I think he gives himself a big chance in the first few overs that he bowls. At least in T20 cricket, the first couple of overs, he backs himself to get a wicket, irrespective of how many runs he gives away. And I think that mindset will follow through even in one-day cricket. He will back himself to get wickets in the first 3 or 4 overs that he gets. So if you can negotiate that well in the first 3 or 4 overs, then you probably have him a little bit at bay. And then if he doesn't get wickets, he tends to kind of hit not the panic button, but he tends to try a little too hard to get wickets because he looks at himself as a wicket taker. So when he doesn't get wickets, you can put a lot of pressure on him. So in those middle overs is when you can kind of put pressure on him and look to get runs against him. But in the first 4 or 5 overs that he bowls, you want to make sure that you're a little circumspect, rotate the strike as much as possible, and when the bad ball gives you the opportunity to score 4 or 6, you cash in.
The one thing, Robin, throughout this tournament, or at least in the first 4 games that India played, that we were all complimenting the Indian team about was their fielding, and they had been outstanding. Today was not quite the day in terms of Indian fielding. You think, what do you think went wrong firstly? And that catch that Ravindra Jadeja dropped off, initially off the bowling of Mohammed Shami, that could have changed the game?
Well, I just think Jaddu was wrong-footed on that one. I think the pace of the ball caught him a little off guard, and you could see he was on the move. Generally, Jaddu is not on the move when he's receiving a ball, and you could see that the ball came very hard into his hands. So, and for me, overall, as far as fielding is concerned, I'm not overtly concerned about today's performance. You have to understand during the course of a long tournament, there are going to be ebbs and flows in performances, and the fielding so far has been top notch. And I'm someone who's a believer of the law of averages. And I believe that something that keeps going up has to kind of come down a little bit and correct itself before going up again. And I'm okay with this. For me, at the end of the day, I want India to win this tournament. So when I see the ebbs and flows during the course of this tournament, it only leaves me feeling good about this Indian team. So I don't mind this happening here. I don't mind these injuries or these niggles happening at the early stage of the tournament, because you know that in the back end, everyone's going to be fit and healthy, and the fielding and everything else, the performances also will be really good.
Just another word on that fielding, because it's not just the catching. We saw ground fielding as well, the Indian fielders struggling a bit. Do you think it has something to do with the outfield that we've seen in Dharamshala? I did see on occasions that there was a puff of dust, a lot of, sand you could see underneath that grass. Maybe that's why the fielders were a bit more careful here on this outfield?
Yeah, without a doubt. As in, you can look at that outfield and you can say just by looking at it that it's not the best outfield out there. It's a great venue. It's very picturesque, but I think the overhead conditions don't allow you to kind of prepare that outfield to the best of its, to its best. And I think that's the situation that's been there at Dharamshala even in the past. It's a little bumpy outfield as well. So I wouldn't take or read too much into this fielding performance by the Indian team. And I would just look at this as a blip in the radar and not overread it, honestly.
All right, Robin, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us in this mid-inning show. Of course, we'll have Robin back at the end of the innings. Just fingers crossed that India are able to chase it down. But as Robin pointed out, 275, if they had gone over 275, it could be dangerous territory. But this seems under control. The Indian team, they need to have a good start. If they get a good start, then quite likely that India might just chase this down and make it 5 out of 5. We were talking about the interesting stats of the HPCS Stadium, and these are those figures that you need to know. 7 matches that have happened in ODIs here. Team that has batted first has won 3 times. Team that has bowled first and has chased, in fact, has won 4 times. So India are chasing today. So that gives you an idea that India have that slight edge. This is a ground where chasing is really helpful. If you look at that particular graphic earlier, the average total is 231. So keeping that in mind, New Zealand has got more than that. So that could be a bit troublesome for the Indian team. The highest total that we are seeing has been 364 that England achieved, and that happened in this year itself, 2023, by India. 330 in 2014. So what this tells you is that this is also a high scoring ground. So in that sense, India would be happy chasing about 270 odd. India's record at the ground, 4 matches they've played, 1-2, lost 2. So it's pretty even Stevens. Not really their happy hunting ground, but even Stevens in terms of their performance. And India in Dharamshala while chasing, that is the most important bit. They have chased 191 versus New Zealand in 2016, but they've had a few more chases that they have been able to do. This is one of those chases, but we are going to show you 3 different chases that India has managed, but one of that was of 191 that they've managed. I'm afraid that's all the time that we have in this edition of Battle of Champions.